Hello, Elaine. I want to make sure yep, okay, I am recording. Hey, so Chris here, Berkshire Hathaway. Hope you're doing well. I am just running through some numbers here. I said I'd send you something tomorrow or yesterday, but I ended up running short on time. So here's where we're at right now. But so this is the house you're trying to sell. This is looks like the old listing. And so I guess so I'm just gonna run through what I'm looking at here, and then you can correct me or you can tell me if I'm thinking about it correctly. But you guys are selling it for 150, and it looks like you guys bought it for 142.5. I'm assuming you put some sort of down payment on. It was on the market 7 days, so it's probably pretty desirable, maybe even competitive. Let's see, you guys get any closing costs? 4,000 for closing costs. So I want to assume you guys put the minimum amount down. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have needed to ask for closing costs. I'm not sure when you purchased it, went pending last year at this time, February 8th, and it closed, okay, in March 20th. So you guys have owned it less than a year. I think when we talked via text, you had a house that you were hoping to purchase, and this house potentially was in the way. So if I had to guess, just looking on those two things, you guys are just trying to break even. Um, and it sounds like time is important. And so the idea here is that if you eliminate a realtor, lower the price, therefore then you'll raise the desirability of the home, sell it faster, and eliminate the realtor costs so you make as much money as possible. Not a bad plan. I understand what you guys are trying to do. So I guess when it comes to pricing, which is important, this is an important part of the game here. Pricing and marketing are big deals. First thing I do is I start with what's happening nationally. So I'm just going to run through that as briefly as I can and as concisely as I can. $7,000 it looks like what the average amount of increased price or equity in a home has since last year. So houses are increasing in Michigan, about $7,000 from this year to last year. Average days on market, we're looking at around 45, 31 to 45 seems to make sense. Depressed property is lower than ever has been when I first started in the business before 2012. 35% of every single house sold, 35% of them were foreclosures, distressed property, probates, something along those lines. So market now is it's like significantly below what a normal bank assumes. So the normal foreclosure rate for a bank, they assume the normal risk is around 4%. So we're looking less than that. And then price changes. So as we can see, your guys' price range here, at least nationwide, is low. There's less inventory, which is why there's less homes selling in those price brackets. There's just the inventory is not there. We look at year-over-year price changes. We're looking at 7.4% as Michigan as a whole, and then seller foot traffic or sellers traffic, it's weak. Doesn't mean that it's weak to sell. It just means there's not a lot of it, which means buyers are moving quickly, or buyers are in a position where there's high demand, low supply. So you guys are in a seller's market. This is the type of market you want to be in when it comes to selling your house. In foot traffic, everyone says, oh, it's bad in the winter. Well, if we look at foot traffic nationwide, it's not really that bad. It doesn't really change much. I mean, this is the entire, since last year of December, all the way until November, not that big of a difference. So, but what does happen is inventory generally goes down in the winter months. So foot traffic and demand stay the same. Inventory goes down. The supply demand makes your house more desirable and more likely to sell for your guys' price and terms. So moving into a more specific to where you guys are at, and we're talking Three Rivers. We look at in general, looking at 150 to 200,000. There is no houses that have sold in Three Rivers. There are 8 on the market, none of which have sold. But if we look at, it's so interesting that that's like this because I got conflicting data on this. So I'll just say that. But if we go from 100 to 149, we got 41. Almost every single one of them is sold. Interesting. Very, very fascinating. When was this last done? So this was last done in January. So it was last 2 months ago. So I might have one newer sheet than this, but it's not going to be much newer. If we look at school district, so I guess first of all, let's just say what the heck are we looking at, Chris? So we're looking at absorption rate, okay? And what this means is if you have all the houses on the market, you have to take the current demand, you can come up with a pretty reasonable idea of how long it's going to take for a home to sell. What's interesting is this 150 to 200, which I think is where your house ought to be priced, is completely blank. And I don't really know how to interpret that data. It's interesting that houses for more money, 200 to 300,000 sold. So maybe this has something to do with being on the river or the lakes in the area. But let's look at school district and see if we get some more concise data here. We're looking at, so same sort of principle, the amount of houses on the market, the amount of houses that have sold last year, calculating in demand, and we're going to come up with an idea of how long it's going to take for your home to sell. But we're looking at so move my mouse so you guys can see what I'm looking at. 150 to 200,000. I mean, we're looking at 1.2 months. So not terrible. I mean, it's a little higher than what the national average is or the state average, but still pretty good for that area. If we look at Three Rivers as a whole, so this average isn't helping you guys much. We're talking $100,000 as the average, came down slightly since last year. Since, well, actually from 2000, we don't know where. I have no idea where it's going to go as far as 2020, but 2018, I mean, we're kind of hovering around that 100, but we jumped significantly since 2017. Look at that. That is crazy. But so we're close. Okay. Well, but in general, what we'd want to see realistically, if we had our way, is this number here. Your home's like the average would be dragging your home price up. That would be ideal. Not what we're seeing right here. But if we look at the school district of Three Rivers, I mean, we're looking at 150,000, 155. So this is interesting. So I'm going to have to see where they draw the boundary lines for this to get a better idea of what it is we're looking at. But the school district is quite promising. This makes you guys right at the average. So the idea is that you would sell your house in the average amount of time, just based on sales price. So I wanted to get even more specific though. So this is sort of broad. We can do some overlays, get an idea of what school districts. So here's Three Rivers School District. That's pretty broad, pretty significant. And then if we take a look at though the MLS areas, which is what I was talking about when I was referring to Three Rivers. Three Rivers is J10, much, much smaller, okay? So, but ignoring those overlays, just looking at the map, what I did is I said, well, realistically, what's going to end up selling this house? And so I'm just, know your house is right in town here. I'm just like, just this in town and the surrounding areas of town is probably realistically what people are looking for. If you're looking for something close to town, they have maybe a little bit of walkability if they want it, decent schools, you know, they're more than likely, they're not terribly concerned if they're going to be here or they're going to be in Vicksburg. They just want a small town. And there's some convenience here. If someone works in, you know, Battle Creek, it's not too far away, or if they work further south, like in Elkhart, again, I mean, reasonable, especially if it's a husband and wife and they split, or one works in Kalamazoo, one works in Elkhart. It's very doable. This is like a good middle ground. So what I've done is I said, okay, take this area right around your home, and then let's take a look at what's happening, like what has happened. Non-waterfront property. So we're not going to compare them to waterfront. And I'm going to try to hone in the price here between 125 and 175. And so the reason I want to do this is because what I'm looking for is your competition here. I'm trying to figure out what houses sold for in this area. And then also I want to know if you have one buyer, let's say, that's going to come into Three Rivers and they want to buy specifically in Three Rivers, what other homes are going to be competing for their interest, okay? And more than likely, I don't think we got much. And here's what I'm saying. So between 120 and 125, we only got one house active in this Three Rivers area. Pending wise, what do we have? We have 6. So that's basically, so it takes about 2 months to sell a house in general to go pending to close. So I can assume it's about 3 per month, and we only have 1 available. I mean, it just looks promising for you guys. And we got 42 sales total. Divide that by 12. I mean, what are we talking about? 6? About 6 per month that are selling. The pending trend right now is 3 per month, but nonetheless, you still only have 1 on the market. So let's take a better look at that. Let's take a better look at what we got going on here. So here is some rough data. I think generally people, when they think about selling their house, one of the things they know is they're gonna have to list high, a little high, because there's gonna be some negotiating. So I like to get an idea of historically, what did houses negotiate from sales price? So, I mean, let's look at that. So this house sold for 125, 100%, 92%. This one sold for 95%, 100%, 104, 101, 101%. So these ones were above asking price. There were bidding wars on them. 100%, 102% bidding war. I mean, we're just seeing almost every single house here sell. The lowest looks like 8% off. I mean, we're getting as high as 8% above. It's probably this is probably averaging around 1 or 2% off actual list price or asking price. And we can see we got plenty of homes that are selling in the 150s. I mean, we've got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 3 beds, 2 baths, 3 beds, 2 baths, 4 beds, 2 baths, 164. I mean, there is a lot of homes that are selling for above the price. Now, there's some unique features to your house. Your house is closer to town. It's definitely lived in. It's not brand new. Some of these are going to be brand new. But when I look at the photos here, 7 days, I mean, you guys, if the house looks close to this still, sorry for that, yeah, hot water heater. The house looks close to this. Now we're gonna have to do a little bit more comparison and figure out, okay, really what does the competition look like? But there's not a lot out there right now. So, I mean, you guys bought a beautiful home. I'm assuming you guys have made it better. So the next question I would assume would be, well, then how are you guys? I mean, obviously the data's in your favor. What are we going to do to sell your house? Like that's a great question. So here's the way that it would end up working: is why do people make buying decisions at all? Let's kind of get into the psyche of a buyer. Or we'll say what stops buyers from making decisions. That might be a better way to ask it. Buyers, when they're about ready to buy something in the higher level of a purchase it is, the more questions they end up having in the back of their head. In the sense, there's more warning lights that go off, there's more boxes to check off. And so what we can do is we can preemptively answer all of those questions. So the first thing you do is, well, one, marketing, professional photography, videos, and then you establish trust. Well, how do you go about establishing trust? Well, we get third-party experts to verify the condition of your house. We call it a certified pre-owned house. The idea is, we'll say someone's buying 2 houses, or someone has an option to buy 2 houses. They look the exact same, built by the same builder, same year, same make, same model. Everything about the house is the exact same as these 2 houses, even the price. The buyer has to make a decision. One of them has no information on it whatsoever. The other one has been inspected by a licensed builder and a certified, I'll say ratified, that doesn't exist, certified home inspector. They have the reports available, and every defect that was found by that home inspector was corrected. There's a home warranty with the house. And then so those 2 things, you have a certified pre-owned home. Let's say if there's a well and septic, that's been done. So every inspection has already been done, every correction has already been made, and there's a warranty verifying that those things are going to last for the next year. What house are you more likely to pay full price for? Probably the certified pre-owned house. So we position your house as a certified pre-owned home. You're number 1, have a higher likelihood of selling the house for your asking price. And number 2, buyers are less likely to back out, because what happens now, the current state of the way houses are being sold is a buyer looks at a house, they decide that they want to buy it, you negotiate price, then you do your home inspections, and then you determine if you want the house or not based on the home inspections. Then you do an appraisal. You determine if you want the house after the appraisal or not. So you have multiple times after you already have a pending agreement, which a buyer has every right to back out of. We can minimize that risk by simply giving them the information up front. That's one. The next thing we do is let's talk about social proof. Social proof's a big deal. That's why social media and reviews matter. So like, what if we could get reviews on your neighborhood from your neighbors, people who actually live there? Again, people other than you. Not saying that you guys are bad people, but you know, they have less trust for you. They have less trust for me than they do your neighbors. So we would call all your neighbors and ask them and get testimonials. And then we would have that available for them in a packet, something comparable to this that shows nice things about the house, right? And in the back, we would have wonderful and beautiful testimonials on your neighborhood. So now we not only have third-party proof that the house is in great condition and ready to buy, a third-party appraiser that verifies the price, but then we also have the third-party reviews on the neighborhood, verifying that the neighborhood's a good buy. And then last but not least, we do something, we go one more further, and we recognize buyers have a tendency to purchase things based on emotions, okay? They don't buy logically, and that's just what we all do, whether you're buying a candy bar, or you're buying a Corvette, or you're buying $1 million house. There's emotion involved in that purchase. And so advertisers have known this for years. We can do the same thing, and all we got to do is tell stories about your life while you lived in the home. And if we can do that and package it in a way that follows with fair housing law, we have a higher likelihood of getting an emotional response from a buyer. So if we so the idea here, just to sum it up, is let's get rid of every single variable that would make a buyer say no or maybe, because every maybe is a no. And then we give an emotional response for them to say yes. And if we do those things, and we lock up the closing early, and we eliminate variables, you just have a higher likelihood of selling the house for your price and your terms of disclosure transaction. That's the plan. So the numbers, I know I have to see your house in person to really verify any of the numbers that I'm giving you. All I can give was kind of give you a shoot from the hip approach here, saying you're close enough. But if you're not careful, you guys could be leaving $10,000 or $20,000 on the table easy. From what I can see, what the numbers are showing now. Maybe there's some unique features about your house that make it less fat, less desirable. But right now, it looks like you have a high probability of getting more money for it. So I just hate to see you guys lose on this end, or get a buyer that ends up backing out in the last few minutes, which is likely if we don't set appropriate expectations in the beginning. I see it happen often enough. It's scary. Anyway, that's everything, guys. So again, I super appreciate your time listening to this. I'm looking forward to talking to you more and seeing your house. If you have any questions, you can feel free to text or call me anytime. Thank you.